Across the top here we have buttons to the main and important parts of the menu of the software. It's an operating system, it's a computer. I would love sometimes if you got a postcard sized piece of paper and put it over the screen and do some mixing. Mix without looking at the screen maybe sometimes. Quite a bit of the mix you could do without looking at the screen, and that would be nice. Don't get your head stuck in a computer. That's not really where the origins of music were. However, there's a load of setup that you will not be able to do unless you had that screen in front of you. It is a touch screen. So, just the basics, just to get up and running. Where do we go first?
I/O.
Yeah. Desk is switched on, we go to I/O, and it defaults to looking at outputs. So you need to click the input tab, which is on the left hand side. And do we want the local inputs? Where are the local inputs?
The back of the
Yeah, back of the console. So the answer is no. We want the S-Link. Someone tell me what an S-Link is. So what, sorry? Yeah, it's a card in the back of the desk. These SQ consoles from Allen and Heath come with one S-Link card in the back, which is a single audio over Ethernet connection, and that's their name. Well, they've called the audio network D-Snake, but they've called the card S-Link because an S-Link card can also take some other types of Allen and Heath digital audio over Ethernet network. D-Snake can carry 48 signals from stage to front of house. There's another proprietary audio over Ethernet type of network that these guys do, which can carry more than 48 channels at 96k. You've got to pay a bit more money for it. It's called Giga Ace, G-I-G-A, capital A-C-E, Giga Ace. They've just come up with a name for it, and it's like you pay a bit more money, you get this other network that we do, and I mean the outcome's the same. You get audio between monitors and front of house, but you get more channels. The S-Link cards, this card which is on the left hand side at the back, can take both of those types of network connection, and that is the reason why it's got a different name than the D-Snake network. We are only dealing with D-Snake network in this room because that's what we've got. So we go to I/O, we go to the S-Link tab, and we connect one-to-one. On the left-hand side, we have processing channels on the desk. There are 48 processing channels. So you could have 48 simultaneous inputs. And you connect them typically in a one-to-one fashion. So if I plug a pink stick in input 1 on the stage box, it lands upon channel 1 on the desk. Though sometimes you will need to get creative. Not so much in this room for your assessment, but out and about, you might need to get creative with that. So, with that connected, it's there on the console. Usually, that will make this work just fine. Just those things right there. Just a couple of other things to be aware of, troubleshooting-wise, for example. This egg timer looking thing is, if it's got a card installed but it's not connected, it looks like the one on the right hand side that I've not covered up. If it's got a card installed and something is connected into it and that thing is working, i.e. flashing amber, it shows you this little icon, the circle with the ears on it. That means it's plugged in and it works. And when you boot it up, it does a red cross and then the red cross disappears, and if you pull it out, it briefly does a red cross. So some nice on top, and that's there all the time. You can go through to processing, all this and that, and it stays there. So that's nice to know. Okay, one thing we didn't show yesterday was the desk reset. So if we walk up to this desk and someone's used it last time and then switched it off in that condition, here's how you switch the desk off properly, by the way. Press processing, deselect all channels, nothing selected, then you get to press shut down, then you confirm that. That is switching off the software, because otherwise it's like yanking the cable out the back of your computer, or press it more, really, like pressing and holding the power button on your computer to switch it off, rather than correctly switching off the software. The desk isn't going to die. It's not really a massive problem if you go around the back and just go, provided the amplifiers are muted. But it's not how the desk should be correctly switched off. Maybe you could corrupt the firmware. That is the software that makes the hardware happen. So that again, could you switch it off, please? And then switch it back on again. Blue lights go across. Action. You got audio now, as soon as the red cross disappeared. And, well, you could see some input signal. So, that again, to shut down, you might be anywhere doing something like there or there or there or whatever. And you're like, right, show's over, going home, bye. Processing, switch. Just realised for the purpose of the information that you wouldn't see that if I didn't zoom out. So you could be somewhere like that, and to switch it off, you go processing, and then you deselect any channel. Then you get to the shutdown menu. It's a little bit hidden. Maybe that was just to do with don't accidentally switch off the desk mid-show or something, not sure. And then you press shut down. In fact, if you press shut down now, confirm, to bring it back up, you have to power it off and switch it back on. So please do that again. And we'll have it back. Right. I told you about switching off the desk correctly because if the desk is switched off and then switched back on again, it comes on in the condition that it was when it was switched off. So this is how the console was last time someone used it. Maybe you are not feeling convinced that the routing is how you want it, or the inputs and outputs. Maybe you're wondering, I don't know how the last guy used it. Maybe it's just best to reset the desk back to a basic thing. And I would encourage you to do this unless you have a show file and scene. That is a prepared thing on a USB pen drive, which is what you will make for your mix performance. And you will bring your USB pen drive, put it in, load your show. We will come to that. If you don't have that, and you come to a venue and it's like, yeah, something's going on here, I'd rather just start from scratch, then here's how you do it on this desk. You go to setup, and then you go to, this is not immediately apparent, you go to mixer config. Then you press roll. So that again, we'll go off that. You go to setup. Typically when you press setup, it comes up on that page. Then you go to mixer config, and then you need to be on the roll tab across the top. In here, what the manufacturer has done is given you two default options to get started. One option is called standard. I kind of wish they'd call that front of house for these demonstrations. It would be easy for me to just say, if you're mixing at front of house, press that, then press reset, and then confirm. And it resets the desk to a condition that is good for typical front of house mixing. They've called it standard, fine. It just means the desk is one-to-one routed, So input 1 goes to processing channel 1. All of these channels are already connected to the master fader internally. So if there was a signal here right now and I faded that up, I would instantly get it on the master fader. And that's good to go, basically. If you just wanted to get some signals up and fade them up, that's good to go. One of the things about this, though, is you'll notice we've lost the signal from channel 1. The reason we've lost the signal from channel 1 is because, well, you guess. We did reset it, but something's changed that... what could possibly change? Because it's reset it to something that's supposed to be ready to go and usable. Well, according to the icon, S-Link is still connected and the network is ready. Yeah, correct. Please go to I/O if you wouldn't mind and fix it. It's inputs.
Tie lines are supposed to be on there.
Yeah, we'll remind people formally about tie lines today. Great, boom, signal straight away. So, be aware, if you reset the desk using setup, mixer config, role, and standard, it defaults to local inputs. In fact, the full list of what's there is written. Resets the starting point for general purpose front of house. And it tells you what the spec is. 40 mono, 4 stereo inputs. Does it actually say they're from local, though? It doesn't. Well, there you go. But now you know. That reset template puts it back to local inputs. You don't want local inputs. Just to be clear, by the way, how would you get local inputs into this desk? Yeah, with what?
With XLRs.
With XLRs. Or, throughout this module, we will mention analog infrastructure. If you plug these in, you would get signals from stage. If you plug these in, you will get signals from stage if you have connected your microphones to the floor patches. The floor patches, there's one near the rightmost monitor wedge with a piece of blue tape on it. Can you see it? Just look where the subs are, then just look up from the subs, and there's a snake, a stage snake, or floor patch. And thanks, man. And that's the analog inputs in this venue, and that's really typical. And if you plug mics in there, and then got the XLR loom that I just showed, and plug that into the back of the desk, then those numbers would get here, corresponding numbers. Input 1 on the snake would get the signal up to front of house. And similarly, there is a analog XLR loom at the back of the monitor's desk, which you've possibly seen. It's the big mess of cables behind monitors at the moment, behind the SQ desk. And if you fired that in the back of the SQ desk, you would also get analog signals from stage. If you, rather than plugged your mics into the digital stage box, but into the floor patch, that would work. And these analog infrastructures, these XLR snakes, are where it came from, and that's how it would always used to be done. What's interesting actually is that a lot of venues still have this infrastructure in place. Like, for example, has anyone been seen, I think, at the Ritz in Manchester, for example? Well, they still have one of these at front of house, and it's some people would refer to this as the multi-core. Well, this is the tails of the multi-core. The multi-core is the big 48 input loom that is heavy, and you roll it out from stage to front of house. Anyway, a lot of venues have still got this stuff, because if you're a touring production and you have a desk, let's say your desk is from, for example, Avid, and you go into a venue that has a monitor's desk that is from Yamaha and a stage box that is from Yamaha. What were we saying about manufacturers and talking to each other? They generally don't very well in digital domains. So the most universal set of inputs is one of these, and most venues have this option, or can have this option, because it still works. So just as a backup, in this room, in your group recordings, if you for some reason couldn't get the D-Snake working, then there you go, that's the fallback thing right there. Or indeed, if you want more than 24 inputs from stage, you could plug into the analog floor snakes, floor patch, and get some extra inputs. Though I suspect most people will capture within 24 channels in this room. My advice would be to keep it simple at this point to get going, i.e. maybe just one mic in a good place on a guitar cab is cool, rather than your typical dynamic and a condenser that you might maybe have gone for in the past if you've done studio work, for example. Moving this thing on, where we're going with this is listening to some music, hopefully this morning, but morning, afternoon, whenever. I'm not long out of bed, folks. What's good about this reset, though, is that apparently it works right now. Literally, the signal was there at input, and I just faded up a fader, and this is my master meter. It's there, so it could get to the amplifiers. Before we see it in the amplifiers, a couple of extra bits. So, input signal present light is this little LED here. It goes green and then amber. If it's an overload, if it's clipping the analog to digital conversion, it goes red on the PK. Peak. Where is the analog to digital conversion, by the way?
Like in hardware.
Is it up here at front of house? Is it in the monitor's desk? Is it in the...
The monitor desk.
It's in the I/O box. It's in the place where you put the pink stick, the silver bullet. Everything after that is just digital trim on top of an initial preamplifier, analog preamplifier, and then that signal was converted from analog alternating voltage to numbers, coded numbers.